All right, we are live on YouTube. What's going on, guys? Derek here from Wilson Audio Labs. We've got special guests tonight. We're going to do a quick mic check, though, make sure everybody can hear okay. Rob, tell them everybody what's up.
Yo, yo, yo. What's going on, people?
Party people, Mr. Dean from 5-Star. What's going
How's
on?
everybody doing? Do I sound wonderful?
You sound fantastic. Can we, in the chat room real quick, can we get some ideas that our audio sounds okay, and then we will proceed forth. I do not see. Greetings from Brazil. All right. It's another Fernando.
He's from Mexico, man.
I know, but there's another Fernando in the chat room.
Oh, I was going
Brazil.
to say. he's straight from Mexico City, Mexico.
Oh, okay.
Keeps it easy.
Big D is loud. Okay. All right. Well, let me fix that real quick. I don't want it to be too loud.
I think he was talking about your personality.
Well, we can't really help that.
I was going to say.
Let's go to here. Let's go to here. I'll drop it down just a little bit. I'm on 94. Let's go to 89. How do we sound now? Check 1, 2. Check, check.
Coming in hot.
Does it still sound okay to you guys? I turned it down a little bit. Somebody in the chat room give me a. Okay, cool. We're close enough. This is not perfection that we're doing here. So I'm going to go ahead and share the screen for you, Rob.
Yeah.
And I'm going to let you do your thing.
All right. 5, 4, 3, 2. Welcome to 12 Volt Talk, episode 51. It's me, your boy Hi-Fi Vega, joined as always by my good buddy Big D, and we got a special guest tonight, Dean from 5-Star Car Stereo. What's going on, y'all?
Howdy.
Hey guys, this is Derek from Wilson Audio Labs. We have special guest, Mr. Dean from 5-Star Car Stereo down in Florida. Beautiful, lovely, cool. I'm sure it's not too hot Florida, right, Dean?
Oh, I had on my jacket today. It was burr.
Is it an air-conditioned jacket?
Oh, God, I wish. Yeah, one of those cool jackets. Yeah. No, it's full summer right now. That is for sure. Yeah, that's actually funny you should mention that, because when we do our live show, that's one of the things that always pops up. It started as a joke years ago when we were doing it, and it's just kind of ran with the show as people will pop in and say, the temperature where they're at. We used to be like, and I do my announcer voice and I go, and welcome to 5-Star Weather Talk. I'm your host, Dean, and yeah, it was always a trip. So, but people still do it. It's kind of enjoyable.
Yeah, it's pretty warm here. I know we're quite a bit north of you, but we're 100 degrees and 100% humidity today. So.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, actually, that was the funny thing we were talking about earlier. I said to Fernando, I said, the weather everywhere sucks right now. So it's like, we really can't complain much because everyone's weather sucks. And Fernando goes, screw that. I'm still going to complain.
Yeah, but your winter weather is so much better. So.
Yeah. Well, for us, kind of. I mean, we're wusses when it comes to winter time. I mean, you get to 30s and it's like, all right, we're done. Tapped out, man. I had to buy a pair of spandex running pants because it was like 30, and I was like, no, I'm not running in this crap.
Now I can't get that out of my head now, Dean.
I put a picture of it up on Instagram too, and they're white too, sexy white.
Oh no,
man, it was great. Oh yeah. And a couple of my buddies that run were like in Ohio and stuff, and they like, how cold was it? And I was like, it's 32, and they're like, you're such a wuss. I'm like, yeah, yeah, I am.
Yeah, we don't like the cold either. Well, that's cool. Well, let's get into the interview here so we can talk about some car stereo stuff, because I'm sure that you don't talk enough about that during the week. So we're gonna have you regurgitate a little bit more here.
Okay.
So you always interview other people, right? I mean,
yes.
You talk to a lot of people in the industry. You interview people every week, multiple times a week. You take a lot of questions through your Facebook channel and through your YouTube channel. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got started in the car audio?
It was a dark and doomy Sunday. No, I honestly, it was kind of funny. I bought my first car, which was a 1980 Dodge Omni, and it had an AM radio in it. I mean, straight old school AM radio, and it had a AM modulated FM tuner that was strapped up underneath it, which to this day I still haven't seen another one of. And I don't even know if that's what it was, but anyways, I pulled all that out and I had a Sony Walkman. And so I had a Sony Walkman, 2 Peerless tweeters, and 2 JSE 8-inch woofers, and a box made out of cardboard. Because, like, you know, hey, why not, right? It works. You know, my friend's dad worked for Procter & Gamble, and we had plenty of cardboard. So, but from there, it just kind of snowballed into something else. Honestly, it was kind of weird because I'm not big into music. I just, something about listening to the bass was just like, and I'm not a bass head anymore, but I was back then. It was like, dude, yeah. Oh, 12s, 15s. Give me some of that. You know, it was like when I got my first pair of 15s, I was like, oh yeah, here we go. Breaking glass. You know,
It always starts with the bass.
you know, it's funny you say that, but when we interviewed Jeff Smith from AMP, it wasn't for him. You know, he's always been an SQ guy. And it was like, really? He's like, yeah, no, I've always been an SQ. And I was like, you suck, leave.
He must be a musician. Must have had some kind of musical roots.
It was weird. It's just his personality. That's just how he is, man. He got into it for the totally different reason than what we got into it for. It was odd. But he's
So-
an odd guy.
What was your first real system that you had, the one that you would show off to people and let everyone, like, hey, I'm into audio now, check this out?
I mean, probably the first, like, oh man, this is real. Was I had an Orion Morel system. I had a 1984, 86 Renault Encore. I don't know if you've ever seen one of those before.
Yeah.
And I had 6 amplifiers. I had 3 222 SXs, 2 250 XXs, and a 2125 SX that was replaced by the 2150. And they were all old school Orion logos. It was the old Orion logo, not the new one that they have.
Stars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had their 6-channel DSP, or 6-channel EQ. I'm sorry, DSP's on the brain. They had mounted up in the headliner. I had one Orion XTR10 in a bandpass, and then in the door were 2 Morel 6-inch mid bass, a mid range, 2 tweeters, and then in the back they had their Integra coaxials, and then in the dash I had 4 little Audax tweeters, the little tiny things, 2 in the center and then 2 in the corners. Yeah, and then they're 200 CRX and they're 300 CRX. That's how you'd get a 4-way active crossover. You'd actually come out of one into the other with a DIN cable, and you'd have a fully active crossover, 4-way crossover, which is funny because even to this day, people are like, what is active? It's like, that's all we did back then. You know, it was kind of funny.
Yeah, none of the amps had crossovers built in back then either. So
No.
you were forced to do everything externally.
Yeah. I mean, you know, and my first Orion amp was the 280GX, and they sold it to me, and I was like, cool. And I was trying to bridge it because, you know, everyone would bridge stuff, and they're like, oh no, you got to buy the 400 BDG or whatever the heck it is with the bridging module. And I was like, you got to do what? Huh? And the real funny part was, to buy that amp, I had to trade in. I had 2 Sherwoods. I had the Sherwood, what is it, the 280 or the 240, and the Sherwood 180. Whatever those 2 matching Sherwoods were back in the day. I had to trade both those in and give the guy $100 to get the 280GX, or yeah, whatever. Yeah, that one. And I actually have one on my wall over here in the install bay. It's just the heatsink though, because it went kapooey. But
That's sweet. That's funny because that was actually my first amp too, the 280GX. And
really?
yeah, I got it from my brother, and I didn't know about the bridging either.
Right.
And I soon found out that it's not going to work for me because I can't bridge it, and I couldn't afford I think it was like $180 or something
Yeah,
for
it was
that bridging
ridiculous.
module. It was crazy.
Yeah.
said, no way. So I ended up getting an Alpha Sonic after that. Then I went to Rockford after Alpha Sonic. But yeah, the 280GX is pretty sweet amp.
It was funny because I was going to buy the 250 SX, and the guy's like, oh, no, buy this. And I was like, okay. But the other one's shiny. Because the SXs were shiny, and those weren't. And I was like, I want shiny. He's like, no, this is more power. And I was like, okay. Yeah, thanks, bro.
Yeah.
Which is funny because the guy I bought it from, I actually ended up going to work for 21 years. So, circle of life. I made my money back.
All righty. Yeah, that's funny. We don't have it here listed on our question list, but the whole Rockford versus Orion thing, I'm sure back then, you had quite a setup there. You're talking like, what'd you say, 5 or 6 different amps?
Six of them,
amps. And I mean, you had some money invested in that system.
Yeah, well, okay. So the sad part of that story is it was a Renault, which is the sad part of that story, and it decided to break, and so I had to sell all my equipment so I could buy my next car. So that was the next car after that was a Mitsubishi Eclipse, and the system that went into that was even cooler in my mind. Because that's when Orion just came out with the little GT amplifiers that they had. They had the 220, the 420, and the 620 GT. And I was like, oh, that is so cool because they were tiny. And I was like, I'm going to do 2.8s in a bandpass. And I'm going to use the 620 GT to go active on the front. And I'm going to use the 420 GT to do rears in the sub. So I designed 2.8s in a bandpass firing up. It was like 7 inches tall. It was really weird. How we built the box and fired the subs, but then the amps were mounted upside down, so it just looked like I had this 3-foot long, real skinny amplifier under plexi. And in order to do the power, I had to drill through the side of the heatsink and run the power wires through the side of the amplifier. Because everyone's like, "Where's the power wire?" And I was like, "It's there." Shush.
Man, you're crazy. A brand new amp drilling into the side of it. So you were in deep right from the beginning almost then, huh?
Well, I mean, by then it was something I was already doing for a living. So it's like when you open a box, take out an amp, open a box, take out an amp, open a box, take out it kind of loses some value at that point where it's just like day in, day out. It's not like that thing you've been saving up for forever. And then when you finally get it, you just, you have on white gloves and you're holding it. And it's like, I have an idea. It involves cutting a hole in that. Give me my saw. We're going to cut a hole in that, So, yeah, from that perspective, I mean, I'm that way with cameras, or at least I was that way with cameras until we started filming here. And now I'm not that way with cameras anymore. It's like, catch.
Yeah, for sure. So I know you do have a few pieces of equipment that you like. Is there anything that you wouldn't give up? Is there any piece of car audio equipment that you wouldn't give up?
I mean, for me now it's mainly tools. So I still have my original heatsink for my 2125. It's in my attic. And I looked at it a couple weeks ago because I had to go up in my attic, and I was like, oh, I remember. Oh, and then I promptly went down and moved on. But for me, it's tools now. Like, I look at it from like, I have my handheld RTAs. And those to me are like that's the one thing I wish I would have gotten years ago. But then I always look back at the amplifiers I let get away and wish I still had those. Like, we were a huge Macintosh dealer back then. And I had after the Orion system and the Eclipse, I took all that out and went to a full Macintosh system because they had just come out with their small 2-channel amplifiers. I think Doug is using one of those in the white car, the white rider that he's doing. Somebody gave him one of those, and those were affordable, so you could get into Mac pretty reasonable. So I bought a bunch of those and lined them up in the back of my car. I had 3 of them, one front rear sub, and ran a Orion 10 and a bandpass. So I went totally the other way. I wanted my trunk back, and so I mounted them up against the back. So the only way you could see them is if you were in the back seat and turned around and looked behind you. And then those got stolen because, that's how that happens. So I bought the big 6-channel, and I bought the radio, and I was like, oh, this is the coolest stuff ever. That copper chassis on the radio, you're just looking at it and you're going, ooh, yeah, fingerprints don't touch. And but it had the meters and the amp, and it was like so cool. It never even got into a car. I had to sell it for something. Something came up, and it was like, keep an amp that's really cool or eat. I guess I'll eat. Plus, at that point, I just got married, and my wife was like, you need to get rid of this. And I was like, all right, bye. So that was that. But, yeah, I do have a Macintosh leather jacket, though, that I never get to wear. That was kind of a funny one because when I say we were a huge Macintosh dealer, we were a huge Macintosh dealer. They had a promo that they were going to give you 2 leather jackets if you bought $50,000 worth of Macintosh gear to sell. So my boss was like, heck yeah, we'll do that. I mean, back then we were selling their 4x, was it the 400 watt by 4x100 bleh, for $1,000. Could you imagine paying that right now? Not even a chance. But I feel that's kind of what killed them, is because at that same time, touchscreens were starting to come out, and those were, it had your Pioneer, what was it, the Z1 or something like that, and it was $1,800, and then you had to add on the Bluetooth module, and you had to add on the changer. So by the time you were done, it was like $3,000. But then Clarion was getting cheaper, and Alpine was getting cheaper, and then Pioneer said, "Hey, let's be the cheapest kids in town." And at that point, how could you possibly sell somebody an amplifier for $1,000 that was a 4-channel small little lamp like that? So they just kind of faded into oblivion. But every time when I saw Doug open that big 6-channel, I was like, I've put so many of those in. Oh my God, I wish I still had one of those. That really was kind of depressing.
Yeah, that amp is drool worthy.
Yeah.
Just anything with meters kind of gets me, but that one specifically, the 6-channel version, yeah, it's.
Well, you say anything with meters, which is kind of funny. So for my home audio system, I use Onkyo, and Onkyo used to make this thing called an M508, which was their big version. It was their rip-off version of the Macintosh. So it has 2 big green VU meters on the front of it. And I was like, yeah, give me those. Give me those. They're green. I don't care. I'm going to pull the lights out of them anyways, because I had these 2 giant green lights coming from where my TV was, and I was like, yeah, that's going to suck. But, yeah. And I still have those, fortunately, so yay there.
Yeah, Derek's got a really cool home amp with the green VU meters. What is it, a Proto? Is that what it is?
Proton.
Proton, that's what it is.
Yeah, it looks very similar to the Onkyo you're talking about. Yep.
Yeah. Go Japanese, man. That's back when, and that was Japanese. So, I mean, that was back before the Chinese were making everything. So, yeah, they're like they're probably 22 years old. I run them every night still.
Wow. Yeah, the Proton I got, I think when I opened it up, it showed a 1984 stamped on the inside.
Wow.
And it still did the dyno test and didn't blow up. So
yeah, no, it's yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I know we could probably go on forever with the home stuff. What about you becoming an installer? So was that something you did right off the bat, like when you got into the industry, or is it something you worked yourself into? Were you a salesman first, or how did it work?
So that's a funny story. All right, so the place I was buying all my Orion stuff from was a place called AVE. It was our local, hey, go to this guy. He's going to give you a good price on everything. So we were buying from him in high school, and so which you were talking about Rockford and Orion. We should go back and talk about that. It's kind of funny. You'll get a kick out of that story because some of the people that are involved in it. But he sold Hyphonics first, and I always wanted a Hercules, the original Hyphonics Hercules. So I was saving my money to buy that. Well, because he was a discounter, Hyphonics pulled the line from him, and that's why he picked up Orion. Long story long, I ended up I graduated from high school, and June or July, I get a phone call from my buddy Nathan, who is now head of PAC at AMP. He runs the, and he's like, hey man, I just got a job at AVE. And I was like, what? You know, because out of high school, I mean, that was like a dream come true. Like, dude, you got the holy grail. You're getting paid to do this? What? And he goes, yeah, we need some help. Come on down. And I was like, okay. So he needed help. They didn't need help. He needed help. So he was, you know, I would hang out there. At the time I was in college. So it was like I'd get done with class and I'd go hang out. And what had happened was all the employees had got arrested. Okay. In one fell swoop. You can only imagine why. The owner had nothing to do with it, but the employees were doing some backdoor stuff. And so they all got arrested one night. So he had no employees. Well, he had a thing for working Saturdays. He absolutely hated working Saturdays. He's like, I only want to work Monday through Friday. So I was hanging out there helping Nathan, and he goes, hey, man, you want a job? I was like, yeah. I go, doing what? He goes, just work Saturdays. Just open the store for me and sell stuff. And I was like, really? He goes, yeah, you know, and I'll pay you this. And I was like, okay. So I didn't take a paycheck for the first 8 months because I had another job. So I was working for Procter & Gamble at the time, which was an amazing job. So it was like I had a great job, but I only worked there 3 days a week. So, and going to college, that's at night. So I was like, so every moment I had between getting done with my Procter & Gamble job, which usually ended at about noon, and then going to college at about 9 or 10 o'clock or whatever the heck that was, it was like I was at AVE selling stuff, installing stuff, making money because I had to build that cool Orion system that I had in my Renault. So that's how I could pay for that because I didn't take a paycheck. You know, I was like, it was the total kid in a candy store because I was like, wait a minute, I can literally just walk into the stockroom and this is mine? And they're like, yeah. And like, all I had to do was like talk to people about car audio. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sign me up for that.
No kidding. Give me a big sign that says we'll work for amps.
Oh yeah, dude, it was insane. I mean, it was crazy. But okay, so keep in mind, I worked there for 21 years. So that evolved into that moved really fast. And then what happened is Procter & Gamble decided that they were going to lay off their whole department. So my great job that I had, which was actually what was paying the bills, was going to disappear. And I was like, crap, this sucks. So I went to, you know, my other employer at the car stereo shop, and I said, hey, listen, man, do you see value in me? Because if you do, you need to hire me full time and pay me this, because if not, I have to go find a job, like a real job. You know, the dream is over. And he goes, well, give me a day. Let me figure out what I can come up with. Because I was young. I had bills. I needed them paid. I needed real money. So he was like, you know, he came back a day later and he was like, all right, I'll offer you this. And I was like, yeah, I'll take it. I mean, he could have offered me anything at that point. As long as it was what I needed to pay my bills, I was like, I'll take it. Because I just wanted to stay in the car audio thing, which, you know, was silly because I don't know, you know, here we are now. Yay. But yeah, it was weird in that transition, you know, obviously from sales to installation, back to sales again, then doing sales and installation, and then being installation manager. And then when I was the last 18 years I was there, I was in the installation side. So I was technically the installation manager, which basically meant there was a door in the middle of the shop between the showroom and the install bay. Anything on this side of the door was my responsibility and my problem. And anything on this side of the door was the owner's problem and his responsibility. And so it was like making sure we had all the accessories we needed to do installation, as long as they, you know, and it was like, there was a budget and I had to figure out how much everything cost. So he knew what to charge for an installation. And I don't mean like per installation. I mean like, okay, so this is how much we have in this. Cause he wanted everything to be like on a box. So like an amp install was like, let's say $100. and it was always going to be $100. And it's like, well, it can't be that way because we're going to need less or more. He goes, nope, nope. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. And I'm like, okay. And you know, you roll with it because that's what he wants. But so how we ran that is I had 2 installers that worked for me, and then I was the fabricator. So the way we had the install bay set up was in the corner of the install bay was my woodworking area. And I would do all the woodworking, all the vinyl working, everything that needed to be done, all the custom, you name it, that was mine. And then these 2 guys would take care of all the mundane stuff, like putting in a radio, putting in an alarm. And then I'd grab one of them once I got done with the custom, and I'd have them help me with the finished wiring on it. And that was what we did for years and years and years until the 2006 or 2005 or 6, whatever that was, when the economy decided to go boom, and that was the end of it. You know, we went from having 4 or 5 guys to me and the owner and a guy that worked Saturdays. So it came like this vicious full circle that I had to sit there and laugh at, because I was like, I'm the guy that was the installer that my buddy Nathan was, and I needed a helper just to come work Saturdays. So we hired a guy that just literally would come in on Saturdays and sit up front and go, hey man, can I help you? And then that would usually mean walking back to me and going, hey, can you come help this guy? And I was like, so we paid a guy to basically be the door guard. But he refused to work Saturdays. It was weird.
You know, we don't have this on our question list, but while you're here, we got to ask you. You're one of the very few people that has rode the peak of car audio.
Oh, yeah.
Crash, and now, you know, you're surviving in the uprise. What was that like?
So obviously the peak was amazing. I always laugh because people ask me, and I'll say, you know, at one point we had 22 cassette players on our display board. I had to build and put in 22 cassette players, and it was like 4 CD players, maybe the Clarions that only had like 2 by 22 watts of output, and you had to buy their little, look like a half-in EQ to power up the rest if you wanted that. You know, and it was funny because we literally were printing money back then. I mean, it was amazing. I mean, you know, you look at, it was $1 a watt or $2 a watt, and you know, you look at an Orion Beast. You know, that was between $1,000 to $1,500 depending on where you got it from, and people were buying them. You know, and it was like spending $500 on an amp. It was like, yeah, give me that. I mean, and they were 2-channel amps with no crossovers. You know, but then, you know, and then it came into, you know, that naturally was the beginning, and then it started to get smart. I think the advent of the 4-channel amplifier, or the 4-channel, like, I look at like Alpine, when Alpine came on with their V12 class amplifier, like their big 1500s and all that whole, to me, that is one of those changeover points where it was like the first time we were looking at a Japanese amplifier and going, oh, this is a real thing. You know, because up until then, no one would look at those amplifiers. They was like, I want a Precision Power. I want a Rockford Fosgate. I want an Orion, a Hercules. You know, it was like American. And then it was like Alpine dropped that, and you're like going, okay, that's a real amplifier. Holy cow. That's got some neat stuff. Wait a minute. That has a crossover built into it. Oh my gosh. They make a 4-channel that's like 100 watts. What the heck is that? You know, wait a minute. They're all the same size and they match and they don't blow up. Oh wait. And they have screw down terminals instead of wires sticking out of the end of them.
I was going to say that one because that is so important and so true.
Yeah. So, you know, but that changed the market because they were also cheaper, but we could sell more stuff. I look back at it and, you know, people have always had the same amount of money to spend, roughly. You know, I don't think we're building more expensive systems than we were back then. It's just you were getting less stuff. Now you're getting more stuff, and it's a lot harder. And I look at what we charged for installation back then, and we were giving it away compared to today's standards. Because, you know, it's a lot harder to do installation now than it was back then. I mean, you'd buy an Orion amp, it'd come with an 8-gauge power kit in a box. You'd install them on RCA. It came with the remote turn on. 20 minutes later, you got a crappy install, guys driving away booming. You know, that same install now from us, that's probably an hour and a half install because we're testing every single thing in the car for fake engine noise. generated engine noise, how much voltage is coming out of this thing, does it have a DC offset to turn on the amplifier, and countless other silliness that it's like, yeah, it's changed a lot. But when it was bad, dude, it was bad. I remember one summer, my boss and I, we played cards, and we kept, we were playing, where you get points. I don't remember what it was. I sucked at it, but he killed me. And we played cards every day. We'd literally sit in the shop and we'd play cards. And I'm like, how are we making money? How are we even staying open? And he was just happy because he was winning. And honestly, I was like, I think I'm just going to let him win, because as long as he's happy, I get a paycheck every week. I'm cool. But yeah, it was bad. And really, for me, the breaking point for me and why I left where I was at was I came into work one day, and the owner was talking with one of his friends. And as far as payroll went, it was just me. I was his only employee other than the Saturday guy. And he paid that guy $100 to be there on Saturday. That was it. And he goes, what's killing me right now is payroll. And I'm like, I'm the only guy. What? Okay, fine. Deuces, bro. And you got to understand, at that time, for me, I was still managing the whole install bay. I was doing every install that walked in the door, still ordering everything we needed, but I had to be super careful about it because we couldn't just order stuff. It was like, okay, do we really need that? All right, we'll just order one. And I was maintaining the website. I was maintaining all the social media, because that's back when Facebook was just kind of like starting to be a tool for us. So I was maintaining all that. Yeah, and it was like, really? Okay, bye. And at the time, Paul, the owner of Five Star, he had just moved here from Ohio, and he was actually trying to retire. He didn't want to do this anymore. He's been doing it forever. I mean, him and his brother, when they started American Base, and then that came from them owning a shop and them not liking. There's a whole story there that just gets deep. But he ended up in a mall running Five Star, and then he called it quits, came here. Well, he opened another store here, and he thought he could run it like he ran it in the mall, where people just pick stuff up and go away. Well, that's not how we do business here in Florida. You buy something, you want it installed. So he was having a hard time making that work. So there was, in the plaza we're in, there was a lawyer's office, and they were leaving, and he's like, I want that. I want to rent that, and I'm going to turn that into an install bay. So he started building an install bay and didn't even have an installer. And my Saturday guy came to me and said, hey, man, I know you're miserable. Why don't you go to work for Paul? And I was like, who? And he was like, Paul. And we had met because we were buying stuff from him. So I came down and I talked to him, and, I said, hey, look, this is what I want to do, and this is where I want to go. And somehow none of that took, because everything I asked for just right out the window. But I took the job anyways, and here we are, 6 or 8 years later. So yeah, 8 years later.
Wow, that's a cool story. Along with the installation part and being an installer, there's obviously some parts that you really like about what you do as an installer and parts that you dislike. Tell us about kind of each of those, kind of the ups and downs of being an installer.
Yeah. So the upside of the installer, definitely the most rewarding part of being an installer, is when you're done with a car that you spent, a decent amount of time on, and you hand that guy the keys and you give them the demo, and you see that smile on their face, and they're just like, you delivered everything you promised. And and you're showing them around the car, and you're pointing out silly things like, you're showing them your fuse holder. Back when I was at AVE, I'd be showing them like custom trunk and all that. And, that made you feel real good. That made you feel like that week you just spent building that guy's car was totally worth it. Where it got bad is that you're always fighting the clock, and you're always fighting the owner. It doesn't matter, because there's always one more car that needs to get done, or some silliness there. So, Fernando and I always laugh about it. We'll get done with one of our noteworthy cars that we've just done, and we posted these amazing pictures, and we've just spent, 2 hours tuning it and listening to it and doing all that fun stuff. And it's like, yeah, we got this high, and we're just like, high five, bro. And then we work on, something that rolls in the bay and has like 3 ball tires. The back door doesn't open, the windows won't roll down, and there's a family of cockroaches living in the back of it. And we have to put like an amplified Rockford 10 in the back. And you're just like, okay, that's what you do though. I mean, that's a day. For me, when I was doing the custom fabrication side of things, the problem was that, you'd stare at the back of a trunk to try to come up with an idea of what you want to build. And that would take, anywhere between, let's say, a half hour, 45 minutes, because you're literally building the system piece by piece in your head. All right, I want the panel to go here. I want to put this angle there. I want to use this material there. Okay, well, how is that going to attach together? We weren't using magnets back then, and I hated to see screw heads. So it was like, all right, so how am I going to build that so that it tongue and grooves together so that this panel will overlay over that panel? I would build things like Legos. So there would be a base piece that go in, a piece that go on top of that, a piece that go on top of that, another piece that go on top of that. And the last piece that went in would lock everything in place. And so you'd be staring at the trunk, and you'd be thinking that in your head, and someone would walk up to you and go, hey, man, could you come? And you're like, what? Or you'd be like covered in sawdust head to toe, and they'd want you to come and like look at something, and you'd be like, I'm literally working on how can I go outside right now? I'm okay. And you take 10 minutes to blow off, and then you go out, and they'd be like, hey man, what do you think about this CD player? And you just kind of turn around and walk back in the install bay, get your gun, come out, and shoot them in the head. No, I'm just kidding. But it was things like that would just drive me crazy. So I guess right now, the hard part right now in today's, like, moving to today, is that there's just so much unknown. A car will come in, and it's like, okay, what do we know about this car? We know absolutely nothing about this car. Okay, so what are we going to sell this guy? We're going to sell this guy an hour's worth of time so we can dive into it and figure out what this car is actually doing. And then you can make a recommendation as far as what you should go with. Oh, well, we can't do that. What do you want me to do? I'm not Superman. I can't just guess this stuff. So now, whereas the past, there was no internet to look at. Now it's like you're turning the internet a lot to get information and whatnot. And it's a lot cooler. I mean, being an installer now is definitely a lot cooler than it was back then, in my mind. Just because we have way cooler stuff to play with. There's no question about it.
All kinds of crazy cool tools. Speaking of being installer, was it Installer of the Year 2019, or is it Tech of the Year?
So I have the distinct honor, thanks to the fans and industry people. They're all fans. Anyone that watches the show, we got elected. I always say we, because I always, Fernando and I are a team. There's no question about it. We don't work on cars separately. We work on everything together. Everything that I'm thinking has him as a role in it. This is really the first thing that it's like he's not part of. But it's his fault that I'm doing it. He's the guy that makes me do these things. It's like, he's like, you torture me by putting a camera in my face all the time. And he absolutely is like, hates it. But he's like, no, you have to do this. And I was like, I don't want to do this. He's like, no, you have to do this because you deserve this. And it's something that, and I was like, okay, so we made enough points, as it were, to be elected into the top 12 and the top 5. So it's the top 5 trusted tech and the top 12 installer. So that's like, I was blown away. Like, I was shocked to make it into the top 50. And then to make it into the 12 and the 5, it was like, really? That is too cool. So yeah, it's been crazy. This year's been nuts. I mean, with hitting 100,000, like you, Derek, and then having this on top of it, yeah, it's a ride that has just been insane this year.
I think the neat thing about it, Dean, is, you guys, the standard that you have for your installs and the way you show that you wire up the amplifiers, and you always do everything to an extreme clean level. You know, watching what you do, you know, and I know a lot of people probably come to you just because they watch your videos and see,
Yeah.
you know, exactly you take the time to do it the right way. Obviously, it costs more money because you
Oh
put
yeah.
more time into it, you use more wiring, you use the protective loom, all that. But I mean, you're really marketing not just for 5 star. You know, I think you're really marketing for the entire industry as far as dealers go, because people see what you do and they're like, well, I can't drive to Florida, you know, I'm in Oregon or something.
Right.
But then they expect that, you know, when they go to their local installer, they're like, hey, this guy Dean does this good job. I want you guys to do the same. So I think, you know, without getting too deep into it, I think what you're showing and the level of skill that you show and the detail and the care that you put into it is really benefiting everybody. It benefits the consumer. It benefits the dealers because more people want to have it done when they see what what you've done.
Right.
Unfortunately, we just can't get the sound quality part over the internet, but
No.
but
Not yet.
still, just seeing how clean everything looks, that's what people want. People still want to use their trunks.
Right.
They go on vacations, they have kids.
Yeah.
A lot of us are growing up, but we still enjoy having a nice system. But I really think that showing how big your channel has grown and quality mobile video and a lot of the other ones that kind of do the same thing, that show the installs, it tells me that there's really an audience out there. There's really a market that's interested in this. And I think you guys are doing a fantastic job,
Thank you.
showing this on a daily basis. And I'm hats off to you, man. Just kudos.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You don't have to comment, but that's literally.
Oh no, I was gonna say, I never wanted to do the install stuff. I was perfectly happy doing just the unboxings and stuff like that. And there again, that's Fernando just driving me crazy, going, dude. Okay, so what had happened was we'd done a couple radio unboxings, and we take the sleeve off of a radio and we toss the sleeve onto the floor, or we take the owner's manual and we'd flick it because we're just trying to have fun. It's literally an inanimate thing that, I was like, I would say something like, who's going to read the owner's manual? Nobody. David Letterman, the thing out, which no one knows who David Letterman is. But anyways, and so we were getting some negative comments about that. As you know, on YouTube, people, stuff like that is like, why would you do that? I will never let you touch my car. And Fernando's over there going, trust me, we're the only people you want to let touch your car. And I was like, no, I don't want to do this, because he's bugging me. Dude, we need to do install bay videos. We need to do install bay videos. And I was like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. And finally, one day, he just drove me up the wall with it. He's like the little dog just nipping at your heels, going, do it. You know, and you're like, all right, fine, let's do it. And I think the first one we did, and at the time there weren't the install bay diaries. It was like tips from the install bay, I think is what I called it. And we showed people how to make an ABS panel to mount an amp underneath the seat, and how to use threaded rivets to put those in, and the whole, that whole process. And people were like, wow, whoa, you had the guys from up north like you going, I can't believe you put an amp underneath the seat. Don't you have seat heaters? And I'm like, no, Florida, there are no seat heaters in Florida. I mean, yeah, but no, we don't have those problems. And it kind of snowballed from there. It was like, once we started to get feedback on that, it was like, okay, this is what people really want. But it was kind of scary. I'm not going to lie, because it was like, all right, so we're basically, it's like those dreams you have of when you're in high school and you forgot to dress before you went to high school. That's literally what we were doing. We're walking in the room, butt naked, going, hey, here's how we do something in this industry where people are super opinionated about how everything is supposed to be done. We're like, listen, this is how I do it. Go for it, unload. And yeah, I mean, and then I guess it kind of took off from there,
We talked about this last week, but I will never solder on a YouTube video, because somehow every NASA engineer ever will watch that video and let me know about it. I'm sure you get a little bit about that too.
Yeah, and then I look at it like this. I always say the same thing. I say, listen, you know what? Here's the deal. I do this for a living. That means 6 days a week, I get up 9:30 to 6:30, and I'm doing this in car after car after car. This isn't a hobby. This isn't something I do for fun. This is something I make a living at and have made a living at for 29 years. So I've got a little bit of back area to where, this process works for me time and time again, because I'm a firm believer if something doesn't work, get rid of it. It's gone. If there's a product we sell that I have a problem with that comes back, or there's any issue, that just disappears. If there's a process that we're doing on an installation that isn't working the way we had expected to, that goes away. Best example of that, some of the install kits, the fuse holders that have the dual bolts that look a lot like Steve Meads. Not Steve Meads, but when you use those underneath the hood of a car, they're like the worst place ever to put that style fuse holder, unless you use lock washers. And the manufacturer wasn't providing lock washers for them. So what would happen is, as they heat up and cool down, that ring terminal will start to get loose, and those things would literally just like melt into a ball of goo. And we were getting some of those back, and I was like, all right, we're done. We're not using these anymore. That's it. They're out. And, I get calls from the manufacturer like, hey, why? No, I'm not going to use that. Those suck. And here's why. And they're like, oh, and I was like, dude, you can literally fix this problem with a 1 penny lock washer. I'm not the guy that's going to provide it, though. I'll just buy the better fuse holder. And by doing that, we found a better process for actually doing fuse holders. So it was like, wait, these are smaller? Oh, let's do these. Because every time we have to make the ABS mount, and they're again like ABS, you start with 16th inch ABS, and you're like, oh yeah, it's ABS. The car is filled with plastic underneath the hood, and it's like, and you get that one that comes back with a fuse holder and went like this. You're like, okay, we're not using 16th, or we're not using 1/8 inch anymore. We're going to use 1/4 inch. So it's like every fuse holder is made out of 1/4 inch ABS, and there's a certain size that it can be per thickness that we've figured out over the years, doing as many of them as we do, because it's like every car that comes in gets an ABS fuse holder. We've got, and I'll show a fuse holder, and there'll be one guy that goes, that guy's going to come back in 6 months, and that fuse holder is going to be, melted to pieces. And I'm going, okay, we filmed that video a year ago. Okay, it hasn't come back. We got this, bro.
Yeah, the experts are sometimes not right. At least the wannabe experts.
Yeah,
Well,
but no, I know what you mean.
Yeah, we know that you guys do a lot of amp installs and speaker upgrades and things like that. And I'm sure you get this question literally every week. But you and I had some conversations a couple years ago, and we were talking about some of the 5-channel amps, the Pioneer versus Kenwood versus some of the others. I'm curious. You guys probably still do a lot of 5-channel amps. Do you have any that you prefer of the other, and maybe some 4 channels you prefer, and maybe monoblocks? What do you guys use, or is it specific to the vehicle, or is there some that you use more than others?
There's always going to be some we use more than others. That's a give me. So there's a couple go-to amplifiers that I have, depending on the situation that we're doing. So when I'm building a system, I spend a lot of time talking with the customer, and also the first thing I do, so let's back it up, I guess. And the first thing that I do once I start talking with the customer, once I get involved with the sale, is that I go out to the customer's car immediately. I need to see even if I've seen the car 100 times, I'm going to go out because I want to see his car. I want to see what his car looks like. I want to see what kind of crap does he have in his car? What does his trunk look like? Is this guy hauling dead bodies around in his trunk? How much room am I going to have for a subwoofer? Does he even want a subwoofer? And by the time he's done, he's going to want a subwoofer, because I'm not going to sell him a subwoofer. Where do we have to put amplifiers? What kind of space is he willing to sacrifice? Is there room underneath the seats? Are we keeping the factory head unit? Are we going with an aftermarket head unit? And all those things are going to steer me to preset in my mind, like products that I like. So if we have room, and we have lots of room, and we're doing some higher end components, Morel makes their 5-channel. That's an AB class front end and a class D sub amp. And I love that amplifier because we actually run it 3-channel mode. I don't think we've ever used it as a 5-channel amplifier. We use it as a 3-channel amplifier. So it's a great amplifier for like a pickup truck. You can do a really high-end set of components off of channels 1 and 2, bridge them, 3 and 4, bridge them, and then put like a 10 or a 12 in the back, and then do like a small whatever if they still need rear speakers, just put a small, like Stinger makes a little tiny, like 3.5 by 3.5 2-channel amplifier that's great for that. So that's one of my go-to amplifiers. Usually if we're doing something like that, we're doing some form of an AR interface. iData makes their, like if we're doing like a Toyota with a JBL system and we need to integrate into that, we're going to sell like the Rockford DSR1 because it can talk to that JBL system and give us a preamp section with full DSP, EQ, that whole 9 yards. But depending on, I have other favorite amplifiers. Rockford makes their Mini T amplifiers, which I'm a big fan of. Those are like, if you walk in with a Chevy pickup truck, you're getting those because, they're this size here, and I can make this nice long version of them. They make a 750.1 and a 400.4. They make a 5-channel, not a fan. It's not enough power for the size. They should have made it a little bigger. So I just immediately go to the 4-channel and the monoblock. But I can fit them underneath the seat laying flat, so I don't have to pull out the back seat and worry about them getting cooked behind there. Right now, one of my favorite 5-channel amplifiers is the Kicker Q-Class 1005, which is funny because this is an amplifier they've actually making for like 4 or 5 years that I didn't even know about. Like and I've been to Kicker and we talk regularly, and I was ticked off about something, and it just so happened when John, our Kicker rep, walked in, and I go, dude, you guys make a DSP amplifier that's 5-channel? He goes, yeah, we have the Kicker Q-Class 1005. And I was like, really? He says, yeah. And I go, well, get me one. And he literally picked up the phone, called up Lori, and says, send Dean this amp. He wants to check it out. And it showed up, and I was like, I was blown away with what this amplifier is capable of doing. I was like, you got to be kidding me. I didn't know about this. How did somebody not? And I was pissed at Kicker because I was like, how did you guys make this and not tell people about this thing? And it's not just because it's like a DSP 5-channel amp. It's how it can be used. It's one of the only DSP amplifiers that I can sell you this one DSP amplifier. And if you come back and you say, I want it louder, I can sell you a second 5-channel DSP amplifier. And through the software, I can reconfigure it so the software sees it as one amplifier. Unlike every other DSP amplifier, if I sell you a DSP amplifier and you want more power, I have to sell you a second DSP amplifier, and I have to have 2 laptops open doing 2 DSPs at the same time. And it's like, this sucks. But my all-time favorite 5-channel amplifier isn't even a 5-channel amplifier. It's the Audio Control D 4.800 and their LC 1.800. You can stack them next to one another, which to me qualifies as a 5-channel amplifier. But those amplifiers, especially that 4-channel amplifier, both in the LC and the D is the cat's meow, bee's knees, whatever you want to call it. But those are the trifecta amplifiers. Those can do some amazing stuff. So they're high level, they're low level. But what makes their high level unique is that on the front channels of those, they actually have 4 inputs. And they can do summing on the front channels. So if you're doing a situation where you have a car that has a factory stereo and it has, let's say, left and right tweeter, left and right mid. Well, in a standard situation, you'd have to do external stumming, or you'd have to sell them like an LC7i or something like that. But with that, they actually built the LC7i into the front end of the amplifier. So I can run the tweeters in, the mid-range in. If I'm doing the LC, there's a gain pod on top. If I'm doing the D, it's in the software. I can go and I can blend those two together, and I have my front channel now. So I could sell that amplifier in the unknown situation like we were talking about earlier and be confident that I'm good, because I can, almost every scenario I'm going to run into, I can address it with this amplifier. So those are my go-tos.
That's awesome. That's a lot of good information. I'm sure a lot of people want to hear that. And I'm interested about that Kicker myself, that Q class. I've been looking at those as well. So
they're phenomenal.
Yeah.
You can download the software and play with it. It's Windows based. But when we were playing with it and we started to kind of wrap our heads around what it could do, I'm like, wait a minute. Is this, I'm looking at Fernando and he's looking at me because he's just, what are you talking about? I'm like, I think this does this. And he's like, no, nobody does that. And fortunately for me, and I mean that fortunately for me, I can call John Myers on the phone, who's their head of training. I'm sorry, he's not the head of training. He's the head of TV training, as they call it. Because he's the guy that gets to go on TV and talk about kicker. I could call him up and I was like, "Hey, John, is this what this is doing for real?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Wait, what? Why?" And it was pretty interesting. So, yeah.
Cool. We'll have to check one of those out here in the near future. Thanks for all the tips there. That's some good information. Well, man, we've been eating up this hour. We're already at like 52 past, and I want to get into some of your some YouTube stuff. So, right. 5 Star Car Stereo is the YouTube channel. It's 5 Star Car Stereo Inc. I'll leave a link in the video description below so you guys can go check it out. You guys, wow, tell us about starting up the YouTube channel and the number of videos you do per week, and do you ever sleep?
So all right, so it's kind of funny. The story is, so everyone has their thinking spot, and I was in my thinking spot, as Winnie the Pooh would say, and I'm not going to tell you where it is because I don't need you guys to picture that. And it was around daylight savings time, and we had just, it's like when daylight saving time hits at a retailer, you're constantly just setting clocks. Like, how do I set my clock? And you're like, oh, this is annoying. So I came up with the idea. I was like, hey, let's make a video where we show people how to set the clock. We'll put it up on Facebook and everyone can just watch it and we don't have to do it anymore. And so I came into work and I told Fernando, I was like, we're going to do this. And he goes, why are we going to do that? I was like, I don't know. It sounds like a good idea. And he goes, why don't we do an unboxing? I go, ooh, why don't we do unboxing and we'll do it in English and Spanish? Because at the time I was very naive about the Spanish language, even though I'd taken 2 years of it in college, or in high school. I thought that, if I say something, he just repeats it. And I was wrong, drastically wrong. So the first video we shot was like 5 minutes long. It was shot on a GX9. Every time I'd lean forward, my bald spot would show. It was horrible. And at the very last segment, Paul, the owner, goes, you didn't talk about the FM tuner. And I go, screw the FM tuner or something. I cussed and I left that in there and we put it up on Facebook and everybody thought it was funny. And I was like, oh, let's make that. We have a business plan here. Let's do this. Or we have an idea. But the first videos we shot, we only shot them we wanted them on Facebook. We had no aspirations of going anywhere on YouTube. We wanted local people, and we thought we'd put these video up, and we'd have 10,000 subscribers on Facebook like that. And I was only putting videos up on YouTube as a place to store them because I needed some. I was like, I don't want to have hard drives on hard drives, so I'll just put them over here. And then one day, it was December, we were looking at them and we were almost to 1,000 Facebook subscribers and we were almost to 1,000 YouTube subscribers. And I was like, all right, we got a race. And I go, you know what? I tell you what, as soon as we hit 1,000 YouTube subscribers, I'll actually start paying attention to it because I hadn't even looked at it. Like it didn't even exist to me. And we hit 1,000 like a week later and I was like, crap. And so I started responding to the questions that were getting, because there was just questions coming in and no one was, I didn't care. So, first it was like 10 questions, then it was 20 questions. And as you know, that's 30 questions, then 100 questions. And then it's like, okay, I can answer the questions in this video and then nothing past that because I just don't, there's not enough days in the week. And then we would then we're like, okay, we're going to make YouTube stuff. And we'd do Tuesdays and Thursdays. Every Tuesday and Thursday, we'd put up a video. And then we hit 5,000 and I was like, holy crap, we're at 5,000. And it was like, I want to put out more content. So then we started like Tuesdays and Thursdays, but I might slip one in on a Wednesday and a Friday, because we were doing shorter videos back then where it was like just tips and tricks. And, we'd shoot like a dozen tips and tricks videos in one night. And it was like, wow, I got videos for like 6 months. And I was like, nah, I can't do that. So I just start pumping them out. And then, of course, you start to see the numbers doing this, and then you hit 10,000 and 15,000. And granted, this is all over the course of like 3 or 4 years. It's not like it happened overnight for sure. And then we finally hit, we're finally in the 30s. And I was talking with a few manufacturers, and they weren't really keen with how we were doing our videos because we were still just having fun. We were like, we would do stupid skits but we weren't doing any install videos at this time. So, they're like, yeah, we like you guys, but, the tongue-in-cheeky stuff, yeah, it's got to kind of go. And we're like, oh, really? And so we kind of made that flip right then, because we're like, we're going to need these guys going forward to support us. So we need to kind of start making the videos that they want to see. So we changed, and that actually worked out better. They apparently knew something that we didn't. So we started doing longer unboxings and really getting deep dives into products. And then, I got to the point, when we hit 50, I was like, I want 100, and that feeling. You get to 50 and you're like, I want 100. And then you look back and go, how did I get to 50? And so I was like, okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a video every day of the week, except Sunday. And I was like, Fernando's looking at me like, you're crazy. And I was like, yeah, well, all right. So here's what we're going to do. We'll do on a Monday. So I divide them up into different things. We call created content and live content. So created content is an original show that, is one of the 5 shows that we make. Usually falls on Monday. Tuesday is a rebroadcast of the Monday live show that we do on Facebook. And I need that because I need that to kind of catch up and get ready for the week. It's Monday, everything just hit the fan, between work, home, and everything. So you kind of need that Monday night of just like, I need an easy video to edit. Tuesday is original content. Tuesday through Friday is original content, various shows. And then Saturday is the YouTube live show. And the Saturday show came last because we were just doing 5 days a week. And the YouTube crowd was kind of mad because we were doing a Facebook Live and we weren't giving them their due. And so we're like, okay, well, let's figure out when we can do a Facebook show. I mean, a YouTube show. And we started doing on Fridays, and Fridays weren't working. And so we're like, hey, listen, if we close a half hour early, start at 6, we can get out by 7, we can get on with our lives Saturday nights. So then that started the Saturday live show. So yeah, a lot of stuff going on. And no, I don't sleep. The average show takes anywhere from 4 to 5 hours a night to edit. So that's to do 15 minutes of video, it's 4 to 5 hours. We shoot 4 cameras for each video. So like people complain now, it's like, hey, you have like part 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's like, yeah, because you guys kept wanting more information. So it was like, first it was, Install Diary started out simple. We were just talking about key points. And then everyone's like, well, you didn't show this. You didn't show this. You didn't show this. So I was like, okay, so now we show everything. It's like, okay, we're going to talk about, it's like, here's the show, putting the fuse holder in and the backup camera. And there's 20 minutes there of us doing that because it's like, people want to see every single thing. And it's like, okay, that's fine. If that's what you want to see, we'll show that. And then they'll go, oh, I wish you had longer videos. And it's like, all right, so choose. I can take 4 days and give you 1 hour long video, or I can give you 4 days of 15-minute videos. Which one do you want? Because I can't do both. My wife would kill me. She's on the borderline of doing that now. But we started doing that because we wanted to ramp up to get to 100,000, and we were neck and neck for a long time there until you drop that like, boom. It's like your channel just went, oh my God. And I'm going, you suck.
Yeah, there was like 3 videos I had that did crazy. And yeah, I mean, you just get lucky sometimes. I got lucky with 3 in a row.
Yeah.
But yeah, consistency is very important. And you guys definitely are doing that. I was just looking at the Social Blade page because one of our questions asked how many videos you have. And I show 1,184 uploads. On your channel, you have 103,380 subscribers and 28,455,000 video views. So that is outstanding. Good job.
Thanks.
So everybody, if you're not subscribed, make sure you go to 5 Star Car Stereo. I'll have the link in the video description below. Give them a subscribe and just start going through the videos. I mean, the best thing that Rob and I both do at night, like when we're chilling, is we go through and create like a playlist. Bring up your app, hit watch later, and then stuff like this that you want to see, maybe when you're just chilling. That way you'll have it on your playlist and you can check it out. But there's so much good material here, and I urge everybody to go check it out because I'm sure there's a lot of good stuff that you'd like to see.
Yeah, our biggest complaint is that we have no way to catalog it, because we've we were doing so much of it. It was like, if I would have started cataloging it back when we started, it would have been great, but we never thought to do that. And so now we look back at it and go, well, install diaries is like, I think it's in the 180s or something like that. And it's like, yeah, nope, I'm not going back.
Yeah, that's one of the big drawbacks of YouTube is the interface. They don't give you a good mechanism for organizing your content. So
Yeah.
my original plan was to use a website and do that myself. But as you know,
Yeah.
we don't have time to be messing with that stuff. We just do what we do and we're done with it. But hopefully they'll modify that because they are making things better, over time. They are giving us like free music to use, which we didn't have in the past.
No, and that's great too.
Yeah, it helps out a lot. And they've got some pretty cool music on there. When it first started, it wasn't so good, but it's getting better. So that helps. We're getting close to we're over our hour, but just a couple of more quick questions about, like, what's the most common question that you get? You guys do these shows all the time, 5 a week. And what's the question that you get almost every show, or something that you get asked the most that you'd probably be asking you right now?
There's always someone that asks, what speaker should I buy? And it's like, I don't know. I mean, really? So everyone wants reassurance for the decisions they make in their life. It's like, hey, I'm going to jump off this bridge. And you go, that sounds like a good idea. He says it's a good idea, so I'm going to do it. So we always get asked, what type of speaker should I buy? And so we have an answer for it, that we don't tell you what brand to buy. We kind of point you in stuff to look for when you're buying certain speakers. And then, you always get the same, what's better? What do you like, this or that? And it's always funny because it's like, people go, what do you like better? Focal or this? And it's like, Fernando likes Focal. I like Morel. That's not to say the other stuff isn't great. If I had my way, I'd have all these brands in cars and I'd just drive different cars every day to work, because it's not like I don't like that brand. I actually like Focal K2s. To me are like holy crap. Until you've heard Focal K2s, you don't know what you're missing. But so it's like I always try to look at it like, okay, I understand what they're saying. Let's answer it. Let's answer it with a direction, not necessarily a brand.
So with all that said, if you could give one piece of advice to everybody in the car audio, as a buyer of car audio or wanting an install, what would that piece of advice be?
So, all right. And that's my stall, by the way. If people don't understand what so means, that's the stall. I had an answer as soon as I said that. So go brain, go. Buy it once, buy it right. And what that basically means is we've all grown up in the car audio world, and we bought that first amplifier. We bought that Sherwood. And we bought all that garbage, and we had to buy all that garbage because there was no internet. There was no cool friends. We had to do it the hard way. So we would buy cheap crap, and then we would want better stuff. And so we spent a ton of money buying this cheaper amplifiers, speakers, whatever, knowing that we really want that up there. So the advice I always try to give people, it's like, all right, listen, here's the deal. The difference between you having your dream system and you settling on this system is like going out to eat once a month for a year. Okay. So that not getting that Big Mac with fries every Wednesday at lunchtime, you can have your dream system. Or, one trip out, if you got a family, you spend $150. Sometimes the difference between having awesome and settling is $150, $300. And it's like, I try to tell people, listen, just buy the right stuff the first time. Don't get me wrong. I totally like it when you don't, because I make more money that way. So it's cool. But, that voice, that little angel that pops up and says, just tell them this. I always tell people that because, for us, we're installers. We don't deal in profit. We just deal in putting the stuff in. And sometimes when you have to quote a job and you're going, oh, I just quoted this guy this amazing system. Oh, man, now I got to put it in. Crap, But that's it. buy what you want the first time. Don't settle. Don't buy something thinking that, I want these, but I'm going to settle on those. I want that $300 subwoofer, but I'm just going to get this $100 subwoofer now. You were a third of the way there. I mean, you were literally a third of the way there to having the holy grail of subwoofers that you so desperately wanted. But no, it's like, no, you'll never get there. And I feel that's something that we all have to learn. But yeah, that would be it.
That's great advice. Let Derek buy all the cheap crap because he will buy it. He'll put it on his channel and he'll make fun of it. But in the back of he really loves it. He loves the flea market stuff.
Who doesn't?
Yeah.
Got me. Can I say, well, Dean, we had a couple more questions, but we're running a little bit late on time here. So we're going to kind of wrap this up a little bit. So we're going to put the links below in the video description for your YouTube channel.
Thank you.
Website. Also, to get your podcast, I guess if people just use their podcast app and do a search for 5-Star Stereo, they find it there.
Yeah, we're on iTunes and Google Play and Podbean. Yeah, so we're there.
That's a good way. I mean, a lot of us, like to listen to music in the car, but I know Rob and I both listen to podcasts every day. So people who,
right now I'm not listening to anything.
Yeah, well, it's neat that it's out there. We enjoy listening to that. So not everybody can watch on YouTube. So make sure you check them out on your favorite podcast app. And if you don't know what a podcast is, on your phone, pull up Google Play or pull up your Apple Podcasts and you just do a search and you can find it. So thanks, Dean, for your time tonight. We appreciate you joining us. We had a lot of fun here talking about some of your history, how you got into car audio, and congratulations on 100,000.
Thank you.
Sent you an email about what you need to do to get your silver play button.
Oh,
they don't just send it to you.
That's ridiculous.
Work, man. It's not like you've done enough work yet.
Yeah. Wonderful.
So yeah.
Well, thank you.
Out. Yep. So those who are watching here on youtube.com/12V Talk, make sure you check us out on your favorite podcast app using the 12V Talk, or you can use Big D Wiz, or you can use Hi-Fi Vega. You can find us there. And again, check the video description below. Those who are watching YouTube video, you can find links to 5-Star Car Stereo. Make sure you check out their YouTube channel, give them a subscribe, all that good stuff. Those who are here in the chat room, stick around because we give you a little bit more time to ask questions for Dean. So get your questions ready. Before I drop, Rob, help me out with the super chats.
I got you. Thank you. Donnie Tuttle, Jay Standardwick, Alistair McCullum, OG Airbender, Gene Nava, Jason Zymer, and Charles Brown. Thank all of you.
Yeah, thanks, guys. All right, so join us next week because we have our 1 year episode. That's right, 52, episode 52 next week will be 1 year we've been doing this. So
it's our birthday.
It's our birthday. So
if you got any show moments that you liked over the other, I'm gonna put a supercut video together. So yeah, send them to me. 12vtalk@gmail.com.
All right. Thanks, everybody. See you next week. Peace.
Bye.
Yeah.
All right, cool. We got some late hits here. William Berg and John Olds. Thank you so much. Appreciate the super chats. Dean, do you guys get those super chats when you do your live stuff on YouTube?
We don't have that turned on because we don't use the laptop for doing that show. It's one of the things we've been meaning to do and just never get around to it because literally it's like we have the rack that we set up to do the show and we can set it up in 10 minutes and that's usually all we have because we're pulling a car out of the bay and we're setting up to do the show. And it's like, it's literally half the time that's what it is. So it's like we have this big rack that we can set the TV down and our rack goes in place. We just start plugging in HDMI cables and press go. He's plugging stuff in and I'm logging in on my phone and it's like, okay, you ready? We're ready. And that's why sometimes you'll see me out of frame because I'm actually going to the bathroom after we've started the show. Yeah. But
yeah, you do this every night. We do it one night a week.
Yeah, we don't get to plan. We don't have a lot of headroom. So, and everyone's been asking for you should turn it on, because and that's a great thing about your audience is that, they really want to support you. And the super chat is a pretty cool way to do it. I just haven't had time yet.
Yeah, definitely turn it on when you can, because it helps us a little bit with this show. Obviously helps us, like the streaming software we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Things like that. I mean, you know how it is. You have to buy all that stuff that you use for like cameras and all that
none
stuff.
of it.
Gotta do it. Well, guys in the chat room, if you have any questions, if we
I do have one question. It's non-audio related since it's after show. What is your favorite camera for vlogging style stuff, Dean?
So right now we're using the Canon. I think it's called the S50. It's an interchangeable lens. The screen flips up like this. I would grab it, but it's on the other side of the install bay.
I think it's the M50, Dean.
M50. Thank you. It's the M50. So we were using the GX7 Mark II, and I use that for the Boring Life of Dean and Haley show now. I keep that at home, but we switched to the M50 because we could get a 11 millimeter lens for it. And I like it because when I'm doing this perspective view of me, I have my Joby mount, and I can flip the screen up so the camera sits like this. And as long as I'm within this arm reach, my voice gets captured off of the screen and feeds into the microphone, which is really nice. Plus, it's in line of view. I'm not looking off to the side. But we also just bought the M100. Because we were taking the ADDs that we have on the road, and the ADDs are heavy as hell. So when you're holding it out like this, doing the ADD with the big Rode microphone on top, it's like, hey, okay, all right, everyone, let's find some place where I can put the tripod down because this is heavy. And that was just like, no, this isn't going to work. So the ADDs stay in fixed mounts now, and they don't move. And we have the M100 for that, which is cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's a consensus. That's what I see, the M50. That's what everyone loves, it seems like.
Yeah. The only problem is the mic. So, I mean, it's literally 3 to 4 feet on the mic, and that's it.
Yep.
So the guys are going to kill me if we don't ask this question. Did you ever ride BMX, Dean? Were you into BMX?
Well, okay, so not in the sense of like, hey, let's go to the track and ride a BMX, but yeah, I mean, who didn't have? I had a oh god, what was whatever that brand of BMX was? I can't even think of what it was called.
Paro, Mongoose.
The Diamondback.
Diamondback.
Yep.
Diamondback. I had a Diamondback. That was like the big like Christmas present one year. And I think it got stolen.
They did. That happened a lot.
Yeah, I lost a lot of bikes getting stolen. But, it's funny you mentioned bikes because, you ride a bike until you get a car. And then you never ride a bike again. Until, like I run, and I run a lot, as my wife says, really. But I hurt my knee, and I was like, okay, I can't run. Well, I got to do something. So I went out and bought a Giant. The brand Giant bike, and I bought their Cross Trek, so it's not like a street bike, but it's not an off-road bike, so it's got narrower tires and still has a seat that hurts your butt. And I rode that for like 6 or 8 months, and now it's still sitting in the bedroom. And my buddy will come over and squeeze the tires and go, "When was the last time you rode one of these?" I was like, "Shut up."
Yeah, me and Derek keep kicking around the idea of the 26-inch bike, but
so
we hadn't pulled the trigger yet.
All right, okay. So secret, you want to know who rides BMX? Like BMX, track BMX is Jeff Smith from AMP.
Yeah?
I remember talking about that when you interviewed him. Yeah, I do.
He is a big BMX guy. And the funny thing is he lives right down the street from me. And when I was riding my bike, because he's like, yeah, I ride bikes too. And I go, oh, really? We should get together and go ride the trail because we have this thing called the Florida Trail. It's right down the street. He goes, no, my bike's not for that. And I go, what kind of bike do you have? He goes, I have a BMX. And I go, wait a minute, like a little kid BMX? And he goes, dude, it's not for little kids. I'm like, yeah. I was like, okay, my bad.
Oh, yeah, we'll have to get Jeff so he can tell us about some of that. We'll have to get him on here in the future. And I'll give him the wheelie challenge too. You too, Jeff. I'll challenge you to a wheelie.
Y'all win on that. I can't ride a wheelie. I'm a runner, not a biker. And apparently, I can't even run. The whole falling off the bike thing. I can't even run straight. I trip all the time. It's murder.
All right, Rob, did you see any more questions? Anybody have any more they want to ask real quick before we let Dean go?
I'm scrolling through. Third Era says, thank you for the polarity checker.
Oh,
Works
no
great.
problem. Yeah, that was a cool giveaway that we did.
Well, I think we covered the BMX. I'm trying to see what else they had for you here. They said, where's Fernando?
He's sitting in the car over here right now, anxiously waiting to do the DSP work we have waiting for us.
Like, come on, Dean. It's time to go.
No, he's
Time to
watching
work.
the show, so he hasn't popped his head up over the steering wheel and go, hey, man, what the heck? I want to go home before 11.
All right, cool. Well, Orion just gave us a super chat. Thank you, Orion, whoever you are. Appreciate that.
Just the dog star.
06 Dodge Ram Mega Cab 5.9 Cummins manual. Where to come through the firewall for 2 runs of 0 gauge.
Whew.
06 Ram 3500.
Well, the Ram, okay, so, I mean, the Ram is one of the easier ones to come through on the firewall because they typically have a plug in the firewall that you can come through that's plastic that you just actually drill through a round bolt. So is it a manual or an automatic? That would be the question because I don't think I've seen any manuals in a
It's
long
a manual.
time. Oh, it's a manual? That's the problem. Yeah, that's why he doesn't have that hole. That's a tough one. That's I have no idea. Those are the things I like to put out of my memory banks because they take up way too much space. Because that's the thing. It's like when you look at it, you go, it goes there. But when it's not looking at it, you have no idea.
All right, cool, man. We know that you got some work to do. Again, we appreciate your time joining us here tonight on the show. And yeah, we're good.
Cool. Well, thank you.
Tell Fernando to holler so everyone can at least hear him.
You want to pop in there, buddy? Oh, he heard you. He's coming.
All right. Yeah, they got to see him, man. You can't have a Dean without a Fernando.
I know. There he is.
There he is.
He's like, get back to work, Dean. It's time to go.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Thanks again, Dean. We'll be in touch. I sent you the information about the
Perfect.
And there was one other thing that I was going to send you, and I'll send that to you as well. So
thank you.
All right, cool. Take care,
guys. Have a great night.
Have a good one. Thanks.
See ya.
Bye.